Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, Davos annual meeting participants. You heard the bells ringing. That was home calling. My name is Yana Gevorgyan. I'm the director of the Group on Earth Observation Secretariat. And I welcome you to this session, Seeing the Earth Deeply. For the next 30 minutes, if I can just challenge you to strip yourselves from your usual identities. Forget where you come from, forget what language you speak, forget your titles, and let's all adopt one single identity. Earthlings. Earthlings, humans who live on planet Earth. And we, the lucky ones, who get to call her our home. Planet Earth, so breathtakingly beautiful, cradling life itself. This is a shot of planet Earth taken from the International Space Stations. This is what astronauts get to see. I borrowed it from my former boss, who was a former astronaut, and she told me that when she saw the Earth like this for the first time through the window of the ISS, it was the most transformative experience. And I can believe, what better way to connect with your home than seeing it in this incredible state? Well, those of us who are not fortunate enough to be up there and see her like this, fortunately, there are ways for us to also to see her deeply and connect with her deeply. And hopefully, I'll show you a little bit of how that's possible. The advanced technologies, Earth observation and other technologies have progressed so much that they really enable us to see and understand and monitor the Earth as a single intricate system with oceans and atmosphere and land and biosphere so interconnected and constantly interacting with one another. Within this larger system, there are countless smaller systems that are interdependent, and they form the foundation of life itself. The technologies that are observing the Earth and have been doing it for decades and helping us understand her have been certainly telling us one thing, and that is that planet Earth is in peril. Our home is in peril. Our Mother Earth is in peril. You see, as Earthlings, we've misbehaved. We haven't been very good. We've created a whole host of problems because we were kind of selfish, as children tend to be. We didn't think long term. We thought we could get away with things. And now we're dealing with the challenges that we've caused ourselves. We must own this and must really look to solutions that we too must own. Thankfully, we're not powerless. All of you who are looking at the images that are behind the scientific graphs probably recognize these experiences, right? The rising global sea and land temperatures, the extreme weather events, the extreme heat, the loss of nature. We've all lived them. So our own lived experiences are certainly corroborating what science is telling us. We have absolutely shaken up the dynamic equilibrium of the Earth system. We have created massive imbalances. And these imbalances are sounding alarm bells all over the world. And the long-term horizon is looking pretty bleak. The Global Risk Report that the World Economic Forum published just before this annual meeting, and that's been citing so many times just before Davos and here at Davos, puts environmental challenges at the top in our 10-year horizon. Extreme weather events, biodiversity and ecosystem collapse, critical changes to Earth systems, shortage of natural resources. These are the things that we have to face head on and fix. as these risks converge, it's really incumbent upon all of us to take the kind of action that can quickly deliver global impacts. And the potential for us to turn things around with technology is great. Here is another publication by the World Economic Forum that actually says that Earth observation is poised to revolutionize the way in which we manage and understand the Earth systems. The potential is also to realize economic value. These opportunities are going to come from increased productivity, cost avoidance, and creating new business opportunities across key sectors such as agriculture, supply chain, public services, insurance, energy. So how is it though? I mean, here is the paradox, right? We know so much about the Earth, and yet we do so little. Why is it that we all find ourselves in this precarious situation, wondering whether or not our children are going to inherit a thriving planet that they too can enjoy and live beautifully in? Well, let's investigate. At the foundation of everything that I will be speaking to you about is data. It's data that's being shared, that's being put out into the open, and that's driving the creation of knowledge. Well, data by itself, if we just throw a bunch of data, can look like the image to your left. Bit of a data chaos, not helpful. So parts of our Earth observation community are doing the grind work to actually curate all of that data, to organize it and manage it, and put it into an organized manner so that we can actually work with it and create decision support tools. Thanks to organizations like Amazon with their open data platform and Source Cooperative that are creating neutral open platform for sharing data, we're able then to turn to the help of machines and train artificial intelligence to work with that data to create tools. Here you see that very organized data. These are library stacks of data organized thematically and cleaned for quality and ready for analysis. Analysis such as this. What you're seeing in front of you is work by Taylor Geospatial Institute and Source Cooperative, our partners, who have worked with the researchers to segment agricultural field boundaries. This data represents a critical data set for those who want to monitor agriculture and assess agricultural practices. They have worked with data that has been shared about field boundaries from various communities, including governments, and they have analyzed them, organized them, and they started to train artificial intelligence models so they can actually cover the entire world with this kind of segmented agricultural field boundaries. This current data set includes over 1.5 million parcel boundaries and represents 70,000 samplings of diverse agricultural fields. So imagine how we can exponentially accelerate sort of the segmentation of the world's agricultural fields because we're able to share data, train the machines, and accelerate the creation of further capabilities. This is all available to AI and ML experts elsewhere around the world who can now proceed to actually create their own tools. Every community has their unique needs. So when we make data sets and models available openly, we're in fact empowering communities to adopt them for their own needs. What you're looking here is another great initiative of my own organization, Global Water Sustainability Initiative. And this is a global network of all the rivers, of all the stream flows. This model provides information about water quantity in every stream flow. With this kind of quantified, actionable information about water, different communities are able to manage their water resources, predict flooding, and take anticipatory action, saving lives and property. Sometimes anticipatory action comes late and we end up with losses and damages. When that happens, insurance companies get busy, like Tokyo Marine, who after major flooding events in Japan had to normally use traditional practices of doing field-based, ground-based damage assessment. That takes a long time, especially if you think about the damage in the surrounding areas, which then delays insurance payouts to those who really need access to capital quickly. So they partnered with satellite company ISI that provides them with SAR imagery, SAR, synthetic aperture radar, which provides really high resolution imagery of the damage that enables assessment to be done rapidly. This kind of cross-sectoral collaboration really enables to provide targeted and rapid support to the insurance sector, which the WEF report identified as one of the sectors that is ripe for mainstream uptake of Earth observation. Here's another case. Every one of you, I'm sure, has felt pretty hot in the last many, many months. We know that every summer in the past few years has beat the previous record. And urban extreme heat, urban heat has becoming increasingly intensified. Yet, population is growing, and we really need to tackle the problem of urban heat islands. Fun fact, well, not very fun, curious fact, there is this phenomenon called urban heat islands, because within a city there are different temperatures in different districts and neighborhoods. So we need to take adaptive measures that are actually versatile. So Earth observation allows us to actually map those urban heat islands and then combine that information with demographic data and structural data about infrastructure to inform mitigation actions. Plant trees, create cooling corridors, install cooling facilities. And this is what you see here is urban heat islands put together with exposure risk data that enable in Cape Town. Let's move to the next use case, and that is our ability to manage our landscapes and natural capital. Global Forest Watch, work by World Resource Institute, has been providing for decades deforestation alerts in near real time. And organizations like Cargill Food Corporation has been able to work with this kind of system to assess their land and water use practices. And as a result, Cargill has pledged to eliminate deforestation from their supply chain. What you see here in pink are the alerts of deforestation happening on the border of a national park in Colombia. But I want to go beyond us just sharing data and move towards us sharing insights. This is the newest initiative of which I'm really privileged to be the convener. It's called Global Ecosystems Atlas. This was developed on the basis of the request from the Secretariat of the Biodiversity Convention. This is about us putting nature on the balance sheet, creating inventories of ecosystems so we can manage ecosystems in the same way that we manage other strategic assets. The Atlas is collecting data about all of the ecosystem types, harmonizing it, standardizing it, and putting it on the map in this harmonized way so we can query different parts of the world by different ecosystem types, understand how many of them are where, how many of them are in the protected areas, and generate important insights and reports that governments can use to report into their conventions, to implement their own national strategies, and corporates and businesses can actually implement various risk disclosures, but also assess their risks and monitor the impact of the investments that you are making through your sustainability programs. So we have incredible tools, obviously, right? They're leveraging Earth observation and technology, AI. So we can think, well, this is it, case solved, what else must we do? And this is where we take a pause and we consider ourselves, those Earthlings in this loop and our role in this. The thing is, artificial intelligence can only take us so far, but along with human insights, it becomes augmented intelligence. You see, insights that we Earthlings generate provide information about those subtle trends that data alone cannot capture. You can see here the dark areas represent intact forests in Amazon, and the brown areas are the areas where the indigenous populations live. This tells you that the indigenous populations know something extra that our satellite imagery cannot really recreate. And so we need to include that knowledge along with scientific data and technological developments. I love this example. This comes from the World Shipping Council. This is the world's whale chart. The shipping industry is beginning to share data. Those are their lived experiences. This is about the location of whales. Imagine how much easier it is going to be for us to protect these beautiful mammals if we're able to challenge artificial intelligence, turn this kind of data also into spatial data sets so we can visualize it. And then we can avoid collision with these beautiful mammals and really inform our conservation strategies. I'm telling you all of this to say that human action is so vital in ensuring that technology delivers impact. And there is a really good reason for us to do this, because as the stories reported by Manga Bay will tell, mangroves can come back in Madagascar after 50 years of being at the brink of collapse. Caribbean lizard can come back after having been extinct because of habitat restoration efforts. Canadian bobcat can come back and help us control zoonotic diseases. This antelope in Asia, also once extinct in Bangladesh, is making a comeback. If nothing else, these stories are stories of hope and really a call to action to all of us to really act with resolve. And instead of identifying 100 reasons why we can't do something, why we can't share our proprietary data, our indigenous traditional knowledge, find the one reason why we must do it. I will use this example as the final one to say when people commit to acting with resolve, incredible system change is possible. You remember the Montreal Protocol, 1987. Governments agreed that they had to stop the depletion of ozone layer and turn things around. Where there was a will, there clearly was a way. Because as you can see, by 2040, in the Antarctic, the ozone layer will be restored. This was a slow and steady progress, but it worked because we stuck with the commitment. And so I'm going to conclude my talk, and I'm asking you to stay because I want to engage you in the conversation. But I'm going to conclude by effectively saying, there is nobody else who is going to fix this other than us, the Earthlings ourselves. I think we've all fessed up to our misbehavior. We all understand we didn't do things right by nature, by our future generations. But we really need to find the courage within to commit to solutions, to commit to mainstreaming tools like Earth observations into our sectors and workflows to really deliver global impact at pace and at scale. Because with this technology, with augmented intelligence that we help to create, we can achieve exponential progress to tackle existential crisis. And that is oh so essential. So my dear Earthlings, I'm going to see if any of you have resonated with this call to action, what your experiences tell you and that you're willing to share with me. What do you think is our opportunity? And please ask me any questions. Yes, please.
What are the Is it on? Okay. What are the as an individual, what are the handful of things that we can do tomorrow to make a change? And collectively, is there a direction we can go?
You don't hear. So the question is, as individuals, what can we do to turn things around today and tomorrow, and what can we do collectively? Well, that's a really great question. I wonder if there are any takers, because I can answer, but is there a perspective within? Because I'll be answering it certainly from my own perspective. My perspective is that we need to find new ways of interacting with this information about nature, rather than seeing it as being sort of on the periphery and something that somebody else needs to resolve. I think we individuals ourselves can begin to take small steps by contributing to the kinds of initiatives that rely on citizen science, on data collection, on sharing, providing your input into the kind of workflows that are calling for citizen science. Many of the initiatives that I mentioned will be actually asking the communities to take part in creating the knowledge. Our mapping of urban heat islands relies on community participation. What we normally do is actually deploy communities to drive cars with sensors, to walk through your own neighborhoods with sensors, and to mark up the areas that you know represent cooling routes, or where the temperature actually spikes up so we can mark it as part of the urban heat island. My hypothesis is that if we engage citizens in the creation of knowledge, they'll have vested interest in using that knowledge as well. So then we're making you participants in that science, and then the adoption of that becomes in your own self-interest as well. The same thing I would say with respect to mapping ecosystems. We'll be calling on people, boots on the ground, to help us identify ecosystems, different types of ecosystem, and identify the state in which they are. And so when you hear about those opportunities, I hope it ignites your curiosity and you put your hand up and you take your children and you spend the weekend doing some of that citizen science work. How can you have access to data?
If we have a knowledge, where shall we go to give it, to share it?
The question is, if we have knowledge, where do we go to share it? That would be my very first proposition to make it easier. Please reach out to me. And then because we have such a robust connected network, including with our partners at the World Economic Forum, we can certainly connect you, because that's what we do. We're connectors. And depending on what your knowledge is about and where it can be best applied, we can absolutely connect you to those who are hungry and calling for that additional insight. But capture my name, and you can find me on the Forum Live app. I don't have it. My name is, I'm going to put it back. Can I put it back onto? I was told that the badge is not very photogenic, so I had to take it off. But here I am. Any more questions or just reflections?
Most actions we know about that. Just something very important every citizen can do. Give us advice and train children, train youth to do it.
What action can we do? All of us can do. Give us advice, train children. Yes, yes, yes. I think actually it's very important that education at school at the young level begins to talk about this topic. So if you have any relationship with your school system, if you are in on a school board, if you're in a PTA, I think actually driving that message home that the children, especially in that formative age, need to be exposed to information about the Earth system and what it all means. That would be really important. One of my ambitions is actually to include school-age children into some of this community work that we talked about by working through networks like the Boy Scouts of America or other similar organizations to get them into that interactive, hands-on, participatory action. They love that. So that's certainly one thing. And I'm so glad you said children, because that's really whose lives are at stake, right? And so getting them really be part of that, not just conversation, but action is really where it's at. I'm so glad you said that. Yes, please.
I just wanted to offer
Hang on, one more. Oh, I'm tangled here. Go ahead, please.
Can you hear?
Yes.
Yes. So I just wanted to offer an alternative view to all of this, of something that we can all start doing at home ourselves. And this came from a Amazonian indigenous healer when I was asking, well, what can we do really? This question, what can we do ourselves to start making changes in our lives and working for the earth? And he said, that the big problem is that we see ourselves as separate from the earth. We see ourselves as, there's this planet and then there's us. And we forget that we are nature, the same way that a tree is, that an animal is. And so our first responsibility is in working with ourselves and our emotional and mental and physical well-being. And when we start working on ourselves, we're working on the planet. And as we work on ourselves, we start working into returning to living lives that are more wholesome, in more accordance to values, less consumerism, less all the things that have brought us to this point. We start going back to root and so if we create environments in our home where we ourselves are living in integrity with the earth, with our values, and we teach this to our children, this is a way of then helping the planet.
I love it. I don't think other participants heard it, did you? And I do have to repeat, because what you started with is that you spoke with an indigenous healer. And every time I speak with indigenous people, that is exactly the perspective that comes back to me. And unfortunately, at some point, I get detached from it. So thanks for the reminder. The indigenous people actually do not see themselves as independent from nature. Mountains and rivers and themselves are all part of that one wholesome system. And so what the participant was saying, that the advice of the indigenous healer is to work on our own mental and physical systems and health by actually connecting also with nature. Too many of us spend our time inside concrete buildings. And once we begin to heal our own internal systems, we'll have actually a much better sort of interaction and connection with the world around us, thus really accelerating the overall change in the trajectory, and be less consumer-oriented, less be materialistic. So thank you so much for reminding of that perspective, and that actually goes to your point as well. What can we each individually do? I'm so grateful that all of you actually focused on the I, the we as a human being, because that really emphasizes that we are really it. Oh. Oh, I thank you so much.
Thank you.
Real nice words of hope, having just been perceived. Thank you so much. These were complimentary words, so I'm just going to keep them to myself and not share with all of you widely. But thank you. Thanks for that feedback. Well, it looks like we need to wrap up. And I want to say thank you to all of you. I know you have so many options here at this annual meeting. So thank you for taking the time to be here and talk about the Earth. Thanks, Earthlings. You put your titles back on. Remember who you represent. And yes, that is me. I'm based in Geneva.